Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Hope you all are having a wonderful Christmas week. It's the 25th tomorrow. You know what that means? Enjoy the holidays, have a Merry Christmas, and build kits. So anyhow, as promised in last time's video, we'd be reviewing the MBT-70 from Dragon's Black Label series. So for this particular kit, I kept the weathering to a bare minimum just so that it still replicates that museum look. Now, not much is to describe about this kit because it's pretty simple, straightforward, and yeah, the part count for this was pretty low, so there's really not a lot going around. So I guess let's try to break it down one by one, shall we? So first off, we have here the turrets, and as you can see here, let me use something to point it out. Use this pencil. As you can see right here, we have weld marks along this area. Weld marks here and also here and on this turret ring. Now for this side first. Dragon's kit out of the box would not have this weld right here, or it's very minimal. You wouldn't really be able to see it. Hence, I modified that and put a more noticeable weld right there. Also here, actually, it wasn't as noticeable as it is now. So again, I modified it. And here in particular, also here on the other side, let me just show you there. Dragon wants you to assemble the gun by gluing these two halves right here to support the gun and make it elevate and depress. Basically, when you glue that down, there's a thin gap between the panel and also the turret surface. And of course, it wouldn't look good, so added the weld seam, which exists on the real vehicle. Then on the turret ring, or at least the 20 mil, let's focus that down. There we go. On the 20 mil, there are actually weld marks over here, and the kit doesn't have it. So of course, modifications again. And since we're talking about the 20 mil, the instructions actually have you place the 20 mil like this with the U shape in front and the gun inverted the other way. But from museum photos, the gun is supposed to face like this with those support mounts facing here, then the U shape on the back. So as always, check your reference photos when building a kit. What else? Since we're still on the turret, most of the optics you see here, they do have clear parts provided. And I want to turn your attention to this particular one right here. I had to modify the inside of that and add those additional optics because the kit does not provide it. So if you're gonna do it bare minimum, you're just gonna be looking at an empty black box. So I added a bit more detail and it's more noticeable if you really look inside. Down here, nothing much going on. Couldn't really find something to replicate what else is inside there, so I just kept it as is. And also I left the door able to swing close and open, so that's another thing. Then over here I added plastic bend right there just so it can replicate that reflective optic that's inside there. Then over here on the real thing, there's a big ass lens that's right there at the back, and it's also reflective. So I decided to do the same thing and just give it a bit more detail. Going around, nothing much going on here. Most of it's still the same, and Yeah, that's it for the turret. For the front of the hull, I'd like to point out that these plastic clear parts right here, they're actually big plastic clear parts. So you're going to have to paint the rim the NATO green just so that it wouldn't stand out so oddly. Oh yes, and I'd like to mention, in good old Dragon fashion, they try to replicate the kit based on a particular model, but they end up giving different details. We'll be going about that, especially with the suspension in a bit. First off, the Koblenz version, or the prototype in Koblenz, does not have these plugs right here. So those are just supposed to be holes. And ironically, the Dragon kit is supposed to be based off the version in Munster. So the one in Munster has these plugs, while the one in Koblenz doesn't. The kit did not have the plugs, so it seems that they also looked at Koblenz. So of course, scratch building to put the plugs in place. Oh yes, and back to the 20 mil. The one in Munster has a setup like this. And then for the grill exhaust right here, I placed a plate behind there just so that it's not a see-through exactly. And then over here on the engine deck, the kit does not come with PE parts, especially for the grills. So I had to scrounge around my spares, and luckily I found some engine grills that I used for this one. Coming around the back, nothing much going on here. And as I mentioned earlier, the suspension. So the Koblenz suspension is this particular setup. There's that knob right there, as you can see, the small triangular one. While the Monster one has something similar but higher, around the level of these return rollers, and then a bar going straight down, connecting to those points and then straight down to the suspension arms. That's how the Monster suspension is supposed to be. But again, in good old Dragon fashion, they mix up the details. I did not bother scratch building the Monster suspension and just left it off as is. But the other details, well, I got it from Monster. Overall verdict on the kit, it's pretty good. You will really end up with a German prototype since the American ones have a little deviation around the thread details and a bit on the hull. So this kit is really going to turn out into a German one. Overall, it's quite enjoyable. Given a little work and love, it'll come out really nice, especially with these details. Oh, one more thing to point out. When assembling your suspension on this kit, make sure to let these two ends, the idler and the sprocket, dry properly. Because the setup for the mounting points aren't deep enough that they go well into the hole, just superficial. So if you don't let that dry properly or in place and put the tracks around, it's going to really pull it back inwards and it's gonna look off. So as much as possible, especially with this idler, once you glue it in place, put something in between this road wheel and then the idler so that it keeps it in place and it dries perfectly. So yeah, it's a simple kit actually. If you ignore the mistakes of Dragon with the details, the part count is pretty low and it builds up quite nicely. Oh, I forgot to mention, if you guys probably saw this white part, this is added also. When you build it as is and you put the gun in, let's just loosely put it there. When you put the gun in, you'd be able to see through, and you'd be safe. You'd be able to see through and through. So you'd see the inside of the turret, inside of the hull, and it's pretty empty. It's pretty bare. And on the real thing, there is a partition for this 20 mil. Hence, I just added that in just for the added detail. So yeah, that's pretty much it for today's video. Bit shorter and a bit quick since there's really not much going around with this kit. I highly recommend it for those who are looking to expand their Bundeswehr collection, especially with the prototypes and like blueprint tanks. Anyhow, for the next few videos coming up, we'd be doing more inbox reviews and also a finished kit review on Tamiya's M4 Sherman. So again, as always, stay safe, enjoy modeling, and have a Merry Christmas, everyone. Thank you. Until next time. Goodbye.